I clutched my resume so tightly that the paper crinkled at the edges. 3 years. 3 years of soul-crushing marketing jobs where my ideas went into a black hole and my potential withered on the vine. But Sterling Corporation was different. This senior marketing coordinator position could finally be my breakthrough. The glass tower stretched toward the sky like a monument to success. My heels clicked against the polished marble as I approached the reception desk, each step echoing my nervous heartbeat. "Maya Chen for the 10 o'clock interview," I said, trying to sound confident. The receptionist smiled warmly. "Top floor, Mr. Cross is expecting you." The elevator ride felt like ascending into my future. I rehearsed my answers silently. "What do you want this position? What makes you qualified? Where do you see yourself in 5 years?" Standard questions I prepared for all week. The door slid open with a soft chime, and there he was, standing by the floor-to-ceiling windows in a tailored navy suit that probably cost more than my monthly rent. His dark eyes locked onto mine with that same infuriating confidence I remembered from a lifetime ago. No, 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 no. Ethan Cross. My heart plummeted straight through the marble floor. "Maya Chen?" he said, my name rolling off his tongue like he'd been waiting 7 years to say it again. That smile, God, that knowing smile that had haunted my high school nightmares curved across his face. Right on time. "Please, come in." My feet moved on autopilot while my brain screamed at me to run. The boy who had made my teenage years a competitive hell, who had stolen my valedictorian title by a single point, who had turned every achievement into a reminder that I wasn't quite good enough, was now standing before me as the CEO of Sterling Corporation. Of course he was. His office was enormous, all sleek lines and modern furniture. Through the windows, the city sprawled beneath us like a conquered kingdom. "Please sit." He gestured to the chair across from his massive desk. I sat, spine straight, chin up. I'd learned how to fake confidence in my 3 years of professional disappointment. "I have to say, I was surprised to see your application," Ethan said, settling into his leather chair with the ease of someone who owned everything he touched. "Maya Chen, Greenwood High's salutatorian. How have you been?" "Fine," I managed, my voice cooler than I felt. "And you've obviously done well for yourself." "I've been fortunate." His eyes never left mine, studying me like I was a puzzle he wanted to solve. "Your resume is impressive. 3 years at Horizon Media, 2 at Summit Marketing. Strong recommendations." "Thank you. Though I noticed you've changed positions frequently." He crept up my neck. "I was looking for the right fit. Somewhere my skills would be appreciated." "And you think Sterling Corporation is that place?" I met his gaze directly. 7 years ago, I would have looked away. But I wasn't that insecure 17-year-old anymore. I think my track record speaks for itself. I increased client engagement by 40% at Horizon. I developed Summit's most successful campaign in 5 years. I'm not here because I need just any job, Mr. Cross. I'm here because I'm good at what I do. Mr. Something flickered in his expression, surprise, maybe, or respect. "Cross," he repeated, almost amused. "We went to school together, Maya. You can call me Ethan. I prefer to keep things professional." "Professional." "Of course." He leaned back, fingers steepled beneath his chin. "Tell me about your approach to integrated marketing campaigns." The interview continued, but every question felt weighted with subtext. Every answer I gave seemed to amuse him in some private way. When I described my strategy for social media engagement, he nodded thoughtfully. When I outlined my experience with client relations, his eyes narrowed with what looked like approval. But underneath everything, I felt the current of our unfinished past, pulling and pushing like a riptide. "One last question," Ethan said after 45 minutes that felt like hours. "Why should I hire you?" I took a breath. "Because I don't give up. Because I turn obstacles into opportunities. And because I've spent 7 years proving that coming in second place only made me work harder to be first." His expression shifted, something vulnerable and raw flickering across his features before his professional mask slid back into place. "The position is yours if you want it," he said quietly. "You can start Monday." I should have been thrilled. This was exactly what I'd hoped for. So why did his offer feel like walking back into a battlefield I'd barely escaped the first time? I stared at Ethan across his enormous desk, my mind reeling. The job offer hung in the air between us like a trap I couldn't see all the edges of. "I need some time to think about it," I heard myself say. "Of course." He leaned forward, elbows on the desk. "Though I'm curious what there is to think about. This is exactly the opportunity you said you were looking for." "It is. But But nothing. I just don't make career decisions impulsively. A slight smile tugged at his lips. No, you never did. Always so careful, so methodical, so methodical. I remember your study schedules in high school. Color-coded, if I recall correctly. My jaw tightened. You paid attention to my study schedules? I paid attention to everything you did, Maya. He said it casually, like he was commenting on the weather. We were competitors, after all. Competitors, that's what he called it? Right, I said flatly. The science fair. That was quite the competition. Something shifted in his expression. You're still angry about that? Angry? I forced a laugh. Why would I be angry? Just because I spent 6 months developing a revolutionary water purification system, and you presented some flashy robotics project right after me that made mine look like a middle school experiment? Your project was brilliant, Ethan said quietly. But yours was better, that's what the judges said, wasn't it? More innovative. More impressive. The words tasted bitter even 7 years later. Maya, or the debate competition junior year, I continued, unable to stop now that I'd started. When you systematically dismantled every argument I made, you didn't just win. You made sure everyone knew I'd lost. Ethan stood, walking to the window. His reflection in the glass looked troubled. That's how debate works. You attack the argument, not the person. It felt personal. He turned to face me. Maybe because it was. The admission stunned me into silence. You think I didn't notice you, Maya? You were the smartest person at Greenwood High. Every time I thought I'd finally achieved something worth celebrating, there you were, doing it better, faster, smarter. Do you have any idea how terrifying that was? Terrifying? My voice rose. You beat me at everything that mattered. Valedictorian, scholarship competitions, even college acceptances. You got into Harvard while I got waitlisted. And you think that felt like winning? Ethan's voice had an edge now. Standing on that stage at graduation, giving the valedictorian speech while you sat there hating me? While everyone congratulated me and I knew I'd only beaten you by 1 point? 1 point, Maya, because Mr. Henderson gave me an A+ on that final calculus exam instead of the A you got. I remembered that exam. I remembered checking my work 3 times, certain I'd aced it. The A felt like a slap. So what? I asked. You want me to feel sorry for you because winning felt hollow? No, I want you to understand that our rivalry wasn't one-sided. You pushed me to be better every single day. Without you, I would have coasted through high school as another privileged kid who didn't have to try. Well, congratulations. You're welcome for being your motivation. Ethan ran a hand through his hair, frustration clear on his face. That's not what I meant. Then what did you mean? He walked back to his desk, bracing his hands on it. I meant that seeing your name on that application last week was the first time in 7 years I felt that same drive. That same need to prove myself. So hiring me is what? Another competition? No, he said firmly. Hiring you is recognizing talent. You've done well for yourself, Maya, really well. Horizon Media, Summit Marketing, these are good companies. But you could be extraordinary at Sterling Corporation. The compliment should have felt good. Instead, it felt like manipulation. I need to go, I said, standing. Wait, Ethan moved around the desk. I'm offering you $75,000 base salary, full benefits, and stock options. You'd be reporting to Marcus Stevens, our chief marketing officer. He's brilliant, fair, and he'll give you the mentorship you deserve. The salary was $15,000 more than I've been making. The stock options alone could change my life. I'll think about it, I repeated. Maya, something in his voice made me pause at the door. For what it's worth, I'm sorry. About high school. About the way I made you feel. I was 17 and stupid and didn't know how to handle having someone challenge me the way you did. I looked back at him. In his expensive suit in his corner office, he still somehow looked like that boy at Greenwood High, uncertain and trying too hard. I'll let you know my decision by Friday, I said. As the elevator descended, I leaned against the wall, my hands shaking. I'd come here for a job interview. Instead, I'd walked back into every insecurity I thought I'd left behind. But $75,000 was hard to ignore. And maybe, just maybe, beating Ethan Cross at his own company would feel better than running away. I stood in Sterling Corporation's lobby at 8:30 Monday morning, smoothing down my navy blazer for the 3rd time. My first day. No turning back now. Maya-chan? A woman with a warm smile approached, hand extended. I'm Sarah Kim, HR Director. Welcome to Sterling. Her handshake was firm, genuine. Thank you. I'm excited to be here. Let me show you around. We'll get your badge, set up your workstation, then I'll introduce you to the team. As we walked through the sleek corridors, Sarah kept up a steady stream of information about company culture, benefits, and office procedures. She led me to the marketing department on the 10th floor. Marcus! Sarah called out to a man studying something on his computer. Your new coordinator is here. Marcus Stevens looked up and his face broke into a genuine smile. Salt and pepper hair, kind eyes, early 40s. He stood and crossed the room with an easy confidence. Maya-chan, I've heard excellent things about you. His handshake was warm. Welcome to the team. Thank you, Mr. Stevens. I'm looking forward to working with you. Marcus, please. We're not that formal here. He leaned in conspiratorially, lowering his voice. Don't let the CEO intimidate you. He's tough but fair. Expects excellence but rewards it generously. If only he knew. I appreciate the advice, I managed. Let me introduce you around, Jessica. Marcus waved over a young woman about my age. This is Jessica Park, our other marketing coordinator. Jessica, meet Maya. Jessica's handshake was enthusiastic. Finally. I've been drowning in the Horizon Tech Analytics. Please tell me you're good with data visualization. I can hold my own, I said, liking her immediately. Thank God, we're going to be best friends. The morning passed in a blur of introductions. Sarah walked me through HR paperwork while Marcus outlined my initial projects. Around noon, Jessica appeared at my desk. Lunch? I'll show you the cafeteria and introduce you to the social ecosystem of Sterling Corp. The cafeteria was surprisingly nice, more upscale restaurant than corporate feeding station. Jessica led me to a table where two people were already seated. Maya, this is Rachel Monroe from Legal and David Chun from Operations. Any relation? David asked, gesturing at our shared last name. Not unless you have family in Oregon. Philadelphia, guess we're not cousins. He grinned. So what brings you to Sterling? Career advancement mostly. Better opportunities than my last position. Where were you before? Rachel asked. Summit Marketing, before that Horizon Media. Horizon? Sarah slid into the seat beside me, balancing her tray. I have a friend there. Small world. It really is, I agreed, grateful for the easy conversation. So fair warning, Jessica said, lowering her voice. Thomas Wright from finance will probably stop by to size you up. He does that with all new hires in marketing. Bit of a territorial thing. Territorial? He thinks marketing is a waste of resources, David explained. Ignore him. Everyone else does. As if summoned, a stern-faced man in his 50s approached our table. He glanced at me, nodded curtly, then walked past without a word. That's Thomas, Jessica whispered. Warm, isn't he? Charming, I muttered. Don't take it personally, Rachel said. He barely acknowledges anyone below director level. The cafeteria doors opened and the entire room seemed to shift. Conversations didn't stop exactly, but they quieted, became more subdued. Ethan walked in. He wore a charcoal suit today, scanning the room with that same assessing gaze I remembered from high school. His eyes found mine across the cafeteria and he changed direction, walking straight toward our table. My heart hammered against my ribs. Maya, he said, his voice carrying that CEO authority. My office after lunch. 2:00. He didn't wait for a response, just turned and left. The silence at our table was deafening. Well, Jessica said finally. That's interesting. Why? I tried to sound casual. Is it unusual for him to meet with new hires? On their first day? Sarah's eyebrows rose. Very unusual. Maybe he wants to welcome her personally, David offered. She's in a senior position. Rachel leaned forward. Or maybe there's a story here. You two know each other? We went to the same high school, I admitted, knowing evasion would only fuel speculation. Haven't seen him since graduation. Small world indeed, Sarah said thoughtfully. Did you two get along? Jessica asked. I forced a smile. We were competitive. Student government, academic rankings, that sort of thing. And now you work for him, Rachel observed. That's gotta be weird. Weird didn't begin to cover it. It's fine, I lied. We're both professionals. Ancient history. But as I pushed my food around my plate, appetite gone, I wondered what Ethan wanted. And why, on my very first day, he was already pulling me into his orbit. Just like old times. At exactly 2 o'clock, I stood outside Ethan's office, my heart pounding. Through the glass walls, I could see him working at his computer, his expression focused. I knocked. "Come in." I entered, keeping my posture rigid, arms crossed defensively over my chest. "You wanted to see me?" Ethan looked up from his screen, and for just a moment, something vulnerable flickered across his face, something almost uncertain. Then his professional mask slid back into place. "Sit down, please. I'm fine standing." His jaw tightened slightly, but he didn't push. "I'm assigning you to lead the Horizon Tech account." My arms dropped to my sides. "What?" "Horizon Tech. They're our biggest client, worth $40 million annually. Their current campaign is underperforming, and they're threatening to go elsewhere. I need someone who can turn this around quickly." My mouth had gone completely dry. "It's my first day." "I'm aware. Accounts like that are handled by senior executives, directors, not coordinators on their first day." "Usually, yes." Ethan leaned back in his chair, studying me. "But this isn't a usual situation. Why me?" The question came out sharper than I intended, edged with suspicion. "Because you're capable. You don't know that. You haven't seen my work in 7 years. I know what you're capable of, Maya, or have you forgotten how brilliant you were at Greenwood High?" The compliment felt like a trap, like bait hiding a hook. "I also remember how you made sure everyone knew when you beat me." Something flashed in his eyes, hurt, maybe, or frustration. His jaw tightened. "Is that really what you think? That I enjoyed competing with you? Didn't you?" "No." The word came out forcefully. He stood, walking around his desk. "I respected you. I pushed myself because of you. There's a difference. It didn't feel like respect when you dismantled my debate arguments in front of the entire school. That was 7 years ago, Maya. Some things don't fade just because time passes." Ethan stopped a few feet from me, his expression intense. "You're right. Some things don't fade. Like the memory of someone who challenged you to be better than you thought you could be." I stared at him, trying to decipher what game he was playing. "This isn't about high school," he continued, his voice quieter now. "I'm not that same kid who needed to win everything. And you're not the same girl who let me get under her skin. You don't know what I am. Then prove it." He picked up a thick folder from his desk and held it out to me. "Prove it to yourself, if not to me. Show everyone here that you earned this position on merit, not because we have history." I took the folder, its weight substantial in my hands. "What if I fail?" "You won't. How can you be so sure?" "Because I've never seen you fail at anything you actually tried at. You didn't fail at Greenwood. You came in second to someone who was obsessed with beating you. That's not the same thing." The words hit me harder than I expected. I'd spent 7 years thinking of myself as the person who almost made it, who was good but not quite good enough. "The presentation is in 2 weeks, Ethan said, returning to his professional tone. "Jessica Park will assist you. She's excellent with data analysis. Marcus will provide oversight and you'll report progress to him, not to me." "Why not to you?" "Because I want this to be fair. I want you to succeed without anyone questioning whether you had an unfair advantage." He met my eyes. "Including you questioning it." I clutched the folder to my chest. "This is a huge risk." "For both of us. The best things usually are." I turned to leave, my mind already spinning with strategy and anxiety. "Maya?" I looked back. "Welcome to Sterling Corporation," he said. "I meant what I said in the interview. You could be extraordinary here." As I walked back to my desk, the folder felt like both an opportunity and a test. Jessica looked up as I approached. "That's the Horizon file," she said, eyes widening. "You're leading Horizon?" "Apparently. On your first day?" She let out a low whistle. "Well, that's either really good or really complicated." I thought about Ethan's expression. The weight of our history, the impossibility of the task ahead. "Maybe both," I said. "The Horizon Tech project swallowed my life whole. For 10 days straight, I arrived at 7 and left after 10, my desk buried under market research, competitor analysis, and demographic studies. Jessica was a godsend. She had this uncanny ability to turn raw data into compelling narratives, finding patterns I would have missed. "Look at this," she said on day 6, shoving her laptop toward me. "Their engagement drops 40% every Thursday. Every single Thursday. That's oddly specific, right?" So I dug deeper. Their target demographic tech professionals aged 25 to 40. That's when they're planning weekend activities. They're mentally checked out from work content, so we shift Thursday content to entertainment and lifestyle connections instead of product features. Exactly. Jessica high-fived me across our shared workspace. Marcus stopped by regularly, reviewing our progress with thoughtful questions that pushed our thinking further. Don't just tell Horizon what's wrong, he advised on day 8. Show them the opportunity cost of not fixing it. Make them see what they're leaving on the table. By day 10, we had something solid. Not perfect, but solid. It was after 9 p.m. when Jessica finally packed up. I'm meeting my boyfriend for late dinner. You should go home too. Soon. I just want to review the presentation flow one more time. Maya, you've reviewed it 6 times today. Then a 7th won't hurt. She squeezed my shoulder on her way out. Don't stay too late. Even workaholics need sleep. But I couldn't leave. Not when this had to be perfect. Not when everyone was watching to see if Ethan had made a mistake giving me this account. I spread the presentation slides across the conference room table, rearranging them, testing different narrative structures. Still here? I jumped. Ethan stood in the doorway. His tie loosened, the top button of his shirt undone. He looked tired. I could ask you the same thing, I said, turning back to my slides. Fair point. He walked into the room and I heard the soft thud of him sitting in one of the chairs. The silence stretched between us, heavy and uncomfortable. Why do you hate me so much? The question was so unexpected that I looked up. His expression was open, genuinely confused. What kind of question is that? A fair one. You've barely looked at me since you started. You tense up whenever I'm near, so I'm asking, why do you hate me? I set down the slide I was holding. You made my life hell for 4 years. That's not an answer. Yes, it is. My voice came out flatter than I intended. Every achievement I had, you topped it. Every moment I should have celebrated, you were there reminding me I wasn't good enough. Every single time I thought I'd finally done something worth being proud of, you did it better. Something in his expression cracked. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees, hands clasped. You really don't know, do you? Don't know what? Why I competed with you. What drove me, he laughed, but there was no humor in it. God, Maya, you were the smartest person I'd ever met. Quick, creative, brilliant in ways I couldn't touch. Do you have any idea how terrifying that was? I stared at him. Terrifying? I pushed myself because of you. I studied until 2 a.m. because I knew you were doing the same. I rewrote essays 4 times because I knew yours would be flawless. I thought if I could beat you just once, I could prove I belonged in the same room as you. The words didn't make sense. That's not. You made me feel small. I know. His voice dropped to almost a whisper. I know I did. And I'm sorrier about that than you'll ever understand. Then why did you do it? Because I was 17 and insecure and I didn't know how to handle admiration except by turning it into competition. He stood, walking toward the windows. My father built an empire. My older brother was already running his own startup at 22. And there I was, just trying to figure out who I was supposed to be. Then you showed up this girl who was smarter than everyone, who didn't need anyone's approval, who just existed in this space of pure competence. I needed approval, I said quietly. I needed it desperately, from teachers, from my parents, from myself. And every time you beat me, it felt like proof that I wasn't enough. Ethan turned to look at me. That's not how it felt from my side. That's not how it felt from mine either. But that's what it was. The silence returned, but different now. Less hostile, more sad. I was an insecure teenager who handled admiration in the worst possible way, Ethan said finally. He moved toward the door, then paused. For what it's worth, I'm sorry. I should have said that 7 years ago. Hell, I should have said it the day we graduated. Why didn't you? Pride, fear, take your pick. He gave me a tired smile. Go home, Maya, get some sleep. Your presentation doesn't need to be perfect. It just needs to be yours. After he left, I sat in the empty conference room, the slides forgotten. 7 years I carried this narrative that Ethan Cross was the villain in my story, the obstacle I couldn't overcome. But what if I'd been wrong? What if we'd both been just kids, fighting our own battles, too young to see past our own insecurities? The thought was unsettling, uncomfortable, and impossible to ignore. The morning of the Horizon Tech presentation arrived with brutal speed. I stood in the main conference room at 8:30, my hands trembling slightly as Jessica and I connected our laptops to the display system. Breathe. Jessica whispered. We've got this, easy for you to say. You're not leading it. No, but I'm presenting the data section, which means if I screw up, we both go down. She grinned. So really, we're in this together. The door opened. Marcus walked in first, giving me an encouraging nod. Then came the Horizon Tech team. Victoria Huang, their CEO, was in her mid-50s with sharp eyes that missed nothing. She shook my hand firmly. Miss Chen, I'm looking forward to seeing what you've prepared. Thank you for the opportunity. Miss Huang. Behind her came Brian Foster and Michelle Torres, both senior executives who looked equally skeptical and interested. Then Ethan entered, taking his seat at the head of the table. His expression was completely neutral, unreadable, professional. My stomach twisted. Whenever you're ready, Victoria said, settling into her chair. I took a breath and launched in. Horizon Tech has built an incredible product, but your current marketing strategy isn't reaching your full potential audience. Here's why. The first slide showed their engagement metrics. The numbers told a damning story. Your content performs well Monday through Wednesday, then drops 40% every Thursday through Sunday. You're losing your audience exactly when they're most likely to make purchasing decisions. We've noticed that, Brian said. We assumed it was industry standard weekend drop-off. It's not. Jessica advanced to her data comparison. Your competitors maintain 75% engagement through weekends. The difference isn't the product. It's the messaging. For the next 30 minutes, we walk them through our strategy. Restructure their content calendar. Shift Thursday and Friday to lifestyle integration instead of technical specifications. Use weekends for community building and user-generated content. Victoria leaned forward. This is a significant departure from what we've been doing. What's your confidence level that this will work? My nervousness had evaporated somewhere around slide 3, replaced by the solid confidence I always felt when I knew my material inside and out. 85%, I said. Based on similar strategies we've implemented for comparable tech companies. The data supports it, the demographic analysis supports it, and your product is strong enough to carry it. What about the 15% risk? Michelle asked. Any strategy has risk. But your current approach has a 100% chance of continuing to underperform. This gives you an 85% chance of increasing engagement by 30 to 40% within 6 months. Victoria exchanged glances with Brian and Michelle. Then she smiled broadly. Impressive, Miss Chen. You've addressed every concern we had with the previous proposal. When can you start implementation? Relief flooded through me. We can have the revised content calendar to you by end of week. Excellent. Victoria stood, shaking my hand again. I look forward to working with you. After they filed out, Marcus grabbed me in a bear hug. That was phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. Sarah appeared with a bottle of champagne she'd apparently been hiding. I had faith. Jessica was grinning so hard her face looked like it might split. We crushed it. Even Thomas Wright stopped by, offering a stiff nod. Well done, Miss Chen. That was acceptable work. From Thomas, that was practically a standing ovation. But Ethan had slipped away during the congratulations. An hour later, after the celebration had died down and everyone returned to work, I found myself taking the elevator to the rooftop terrace. I'm not sure why I knew he'd be there. He stood at the railing, looking out at the city stretched beneath us, his tie loosened, hands in his pockets. You did well today, he said without turning around. Thank you for the opportunity. My voice came out more formal than I intended. Maya. He turned to face me, and the expression on his face was complicated pride mixed with something I couldn't quite name. I meant what I said the other night. I'm sorry for how I treated you back then. The vulnerability in his voice caught me off guard. This wasn't CEO Ethan, this was just... Ethan, why does it matter so much to you now? I asked quietly. It's been 7 years. He looked away, back at the skyline. Because some regrets don't fade with time, some just get heavier. What are you saying? I'm saying that watching you present today, seeing you in your element, brilliant and confident and completely in control, it reminded me of every time. I watched you at Greenwood High and felt that same mixture of awe and inadequacy. Except now I'm old enough to recognize what I was too stupid to see back then, which is... He met my eyes, but I didn't want to beat you. I wanted to impress you. I wanted you to see me as an equal, as someone worth your respect. And I went about it in the worst possible way. My heart was doing something complicated in my chest. Ethan, you don't have to say anything, he interrupted. I just needed you to know you deserve that presentation. You earned it. And I'm proud of you. The words hung in the air between us, heavy with meaning. Thank you, I whispered. He smiled, small and genuine. Now go enjoy your victory. Your team is probably wondering where you disappeared to. As I walked back to the elevator, I realized something had shifted. The anger I carried for 7 years felt lighter somehow. Maybe even starting to dissolve. After Horizon Tech, everything changed. Ethan assigned me to the Redwood Financial rebrand and the Parker Industries launch campaign. High-profile projects that should have gone to directors, not coordinators. He's grooming me for senior management, Marcus said one afternoon, reviewing my latest proposal. I've never seen anyone advance this fast. Is that a problem? Not if you can handle it, can you? I guess we'll find out, but the real challenge wasn't the work. It was the way Ethan and I kept finding ourselves in the same rooms, at the same late-night meetings, orbiting each other like planets caught in gravity. 3 weeks after the Horizon presentation, we were in his office reviewing the Redwood strategy. I reached for a market analysis report at the exact moment he did. Our hands collided and the contact sent electricity straight at my arm. We both froze. Sorry, I said, pulling back. No, he cleared his throat, standing abruptly. We should order dinner. This is going to take a while. Chinese okay? Sure. He called in the order while I pretended to study the documents, hyper-aware of his every movement. 20 minutes later, we sat across from each other with containers of lo mein and fried rice spread between us. Tell me something, Ethan said, breaking apart his chopsticks. Why marketing? You could have done anything. Medicine, law, research. My mom owned a small bakery when I was growing up. She made the best pastries in our neighborhood, but nobody knew about it. She couldn't afford real advertising, so I made flyers on our home computer when I was 12, designed a logo. Convinced the local paper to do a feature. I smiled at the memory. Sales tripled that month. I was hooked. That's a good origin story. What about you? Why build Sterling Corporation instead of joining your father's company? His expression darkened slightly. Because nothing I did was ever good enough for him. When I got a 98 on a test, he asked why it wasn't 100. When I won second place in a competition, he asked why I didn't win first. That sounds exhausting. It was suffocating. He set down his chopsticks. Being second best meant being worthless in my family. That's why I competed so hard at Greenwood. Every time I beat you, I was proving to him and to myself that I wasn't the failure he thought I was. Understanding crashed over me. It wasn't personal, but it hurt you, he said quietly, meeting my eyes. That makes it personal. Intent doesn't erase impact. The honesty in his voice made my chest tight. You've thought about this a lot, every day for 7 years. Our eyes held and something shifted between us, irreversible and terrifying. The air felt thicker, somehow charged. We should get back to work, I said, but I didn't move. We should, he agreed, also not moving. My phone buzzed, breaking the moment. A text from Sarah. Coffee tomorrow morning? Need to talk. The next day, Sarah cornered me in the break room before anyone else arrived. Okay, Spill. What's happening with you and Ethan? Nothing's happening. Maya, I've worked in HR for 12 years. I know what nothing looks like, and this isn't it. She poured herself coffee, her expression concerned but kind. Be careful. Office romances are complicated. Office romances with the CEO rarely end well. There's nothing to be careful about. We're just colleagues. Colleagues don't look at each other the way you two do. She touched my arm gently. I'm not judging. I just don't want to see you get hurt. Or lose the career you're building. I know what I'm doing. Not yet, she said knowingly. But you will soon. She was right. Over the next week, the tension became impossible to ignore. During a team meeting, Ethan's hand lingered on my shoulder when he leaned over to look at my laptop. The touch lasted maybe 3 seconds too long, and I felt it everywhere. At the elevator one evening, our goodbyes stretched into an awkward pause, both of us searching for reasons to keep talking. Good work on the Redwood revisions, he said. Thanks. I incorporated your feedback on the demographic targeting. It was a smart adjustment. Well, you hire smart people. He smiled. I try. The elevator arrived with a soft ding, but neither of us moved. Have a good night, Maya. You too. I stepped into the elevator. As the doors closed, I caught him watching me with an expression that made my heart stutter. In meetings, I'd catch his eyes across the room and have to look away before anyone noticed. I was falling for Ethan Cross, the boy who'd made my teenage years miserable. The man who apologized and meant it. The CEO who believed in me when I barely believed in myself. But falling for him felt like betraying the 17-year-old girl who'd cried in the bathroom over his cruelty. Could I forgive him? Could I forgive myself for forgiving him? Did I even have a choice anymore? That night, lying in bed, I stared at the ceiling and admitted the truth I'd been avoiding. It was already too late. I'd already fallen. The invitation arrived on my desk 3 days before the event. Sterling Corporation Annual Gala. Formal attire required. You have to come, Jessica insisted during lunch. It's basically mandatory for senior staff, and after the Horizon success, you're definitely senior staff. I don't have anything to wear to a formal gala. That's what shopping is for. She grinned. Sarah and I are going Saturday. You're coming. Which is how I ended up in a midnight blue dress that Sarah had declared perfect elegant, without trying too hard. It had a fitted bodice and a flowing skirt that made me feel like someone who belonged at fancy events. The ballroom was stunning. Crystal chandeliers cast warm light over tables draped in white linen. Champagne flowed freely, and the city's business elite mingled in designer gowns and tailored tuxedos. Maya, Marcus appeared with a couple I didn't recognize. I want you to meet Richard and Diane Porter. They're considering bringing their pharmaceutical company on board. I was just telling them about your work with Horizon Tech. For the next hour, I networked like I was born to it. Discussing strategies, exchanging cards, representing Sterling Corporation with confidence I'd spent years building. Then I saw him. Ethan stood across the ballroom in a black tuxedo that fit him like it had been created specifically for his body. He was devastatingly handsome, and I wasn't the only one who noticed. A beautiful woman with perfectly styled auburn hair had her hand possessively on his arm, laughing at something he'd said. Jealousy hit me like a fist to the stomach. That's Olivia Brennan, Jessica whispered, suddenly beside me, his ex-girlfriend. They dated for 2 years, broke up about 18 months ago. Rumors she wants him back. I watched them together, how comfortable they seemed, how she touched him like she had every right to. He smiled at something she said, and the smile looked genuine. What had I expected? That the late-night conversations and lingering touches meant something? He was a CEO, successful, sophisticated, moving in circles I barely understood. I was just the girl from his past he'd once competed against, now working for his company. I felt foolish, naive. I think I'm going to head out, I told Jessica. Already? It's only 9. Headache. Long week. I grabbed my clutch and headed for the exit, weaving through clusters of people I didn't want to talk to. I was almost to the door when a hand caught my arm gently. Leaving already? Ethan stood beside me, his expression concerned. Up close, he was even more devastating. Headache, I lied, not meeting his eyes. Maya. His voice was soft. That situation with Olivia, it's not what you think. I don't think anything, I said, pulling my arm away. You don't owe me explanations. We're colleagues. What you do outside work is none of my business. Yes, I do, he insisted. I do owe you explanations because, Ethan, darling. Olivia appeared like a perfectly dressed ghost, linking her arm through his with practiced ease. They're about to make the toast. You can't miss it, you're the host. Her eyes traveled over me with calculated assessment. Oh, you're the new marketing girl, Maya, was it? How sweet that Ethan brought you into his little event. The condescension dripped from every word. I lifted my chin. Actually, I earned my position, senior marketing coordinator. I led the Horizon Tech campaign that saved a $40 million account. That's refreshing, Olivia said with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Usually the pretty ones don't last long on merit alone. They find other ways to advance. The implication was crystal clear. Ethan's expression darkened. Olivia, that's enough. What? I'm just making conversation. She squeezed his arm. Come on, darling. The toast. Maya, wait, Ethan started, but I was already walking away. I made it to the lobby before the tears threatened. Stupid. So stupid to think that whatever was building between us was real. He was a CEO with a beautiful ex-girlfriend who clearly wanted him back. I was an employee with a chip on my shoulder about high school. Maya. I spun around. Ethan had followed me into the lobby, his tuxedo jacket slightly disheveled like he'd run. Don't. I said. Just don't. Olivia showed up uninvited. I didn't ask her to come. It doesn't matter. It does matter. He stepped closer. What she said in there was completely out of line. You earned everything you have. Everyone knows that. Do they? Or do they think exactly what she thinks, that I'm sleeping my way to the top? No one thinks that. You don't know what people think. My voice cracked. I barely know what I think anymore. Maya, I need to go. I turned toward the door. Enjoy your gala, Mr. Cross. I walked out into the night air, leaving him standing in the lobby. The valet brought my car and I drove home with tears streaming down my face. Because Olivia had crystallized something I'd been trying to ignore. Falling for Ethan Cross was dangerous. For my career, for my heart, for everything I'd worked so hard to build. And I was already in way too deep. Monday morning, I arrived at work an hour early and buried myself in the Redwood financial campaign. If I kept my head down and stayed focused, maybe I could avoid thinking about Saturday night, avoid thinking about Olivia's poisonous smile, avoid thinking about Ethan. I made it until 6 p.m. before he found me. I was walking to my car in the parking garage when I heard footsteps behind me. Maya, I kept walking. I'm late we need to talk. His voice was firm, leaving no room for argument. About what? I asked, still not turning around. About Saturday, about Olivia, about us. I spun to face him. There is no us. There's a CEO and an employee who have an unfortunate history. Maya, look at me. I'd been avoiding his eyes, but now I met them directly. The intensity in his gaze made my breath catch. Olivia and I ended 2 years ago, he said. She showed up at the gala uninvited. I didn't ask her to come. I didn't want her there. What you saw was her trying to rekindle something that's long dead. Why are you telling me this? He stepped closer. Because I care what you think. Because these past months working with you have been the best part of my days. Because I can't stop thinking about you and it's driving me crazy. My heart hammered against my ribs. Ethan, this is complicated. We have history. Bad history. I know, another step closer. We were barely a foot apart now, but maybe we can create better memories. Maybe we can be better than the kids we were. What if we can't? What if this is a mistake? Then we'll deal with it, together. He reached up slowly, giving me time to pull away, and tucked a strand of hair behind my ear. His fingers lingered against my cheek. Give me a chance to be better than the boy you remember, please. The word please undid something in me. Ethan Cross didn't beg. He commanded, he competed, he conquered. But right now he was asking. I don't know if... My phone rang, shattering the moment. I fumbled for it in my purse, planning to ignore it. But then I saw the caller ID mom. She never called this late unless something was wrong. Hello? Maya. Her voice was shaking. It's your father. He's in the hospital. Heart attack. They're taking him into surgery. The world tilted. What? When? Is he? Come now, St. Mary's. Please hurry. The phone slipped from my numb fingers. Ethan caught it before it hit the ground. What happened? My father. Heart attack. Hospital. The words came out disconnected, my brain struggling to process. Which hospital? St. Mary's. Come on. He took my keys from my hand. I'm driving. I should have protested. Should have said I can manage. But I couldn't seem to make my body work properly. Ethan guided me to his car, buckled me in like I was a child, and pulled out of the garage. The drive was a blur. He drove fast but safely, one hand on the wheel, the other reaching over to grip mine. He's going to be okay, Ethan said. You don't know that. Your mom said they're taking him to surgery. That means he's stable enough for surgery. That's good. I couldn't respond. Couldn't do anything but stare out the window and pray. At the hospital, my mother collapsed into my arms in the waiting room, sobbing. My younger brother Kevin stood nearby, his face pale. He was watching TV, Mom said through tears. Just watching TV, and then he grabbed his chest and, It's okay, Mom, he's strong. He's going to be okay. The doctor came out an hour later. The surgery went well. Dad was stable. They placed 2 stents. He'd need lifestyle changes, but he'd survive. Relief made my knees weak. At 3 a.m., after Mom and Kevin had finally gone home to rest, I sat in the hospital cafeteria with cold coffee I couldn't drink. Ethan sat across from me, still in his work clothes, tie loosened, looking exhausted. You should go home, I said. Get some sleep. I'm fine here. Ethan, Maya, I'm not leaving. He reached across the table and took my hand. Not unless you want me to. I looked down at our joined hands. His thumb traced small circles on my palm, and the gesture was so gentle it made my eyes sting with tears I'd been holding back. Thank you for being here, I whispered. You didn't have to. Nowhere else I'd rather be. Something in my chest cracked open. All the walls I'd been maintaining, all the careful distance I'd tried to keep, all the reasons I told myself this couldn't work, they crumbled under the weight of his steadiness. He'd stayed. Through a crisis that had nothing to do with work or competition or complicated past. He just stayed because I needed someone. I'm scared, I admitted. Of my dad. Of this, of us. I know, he squeezed my hand. I'm scared too. But maybe being scared together is better than being scared alone. I met his eyes across the table. When did you get so wise? About 7 years too late, apparently. Despite everything, I almost smiled. Better late than never? That's what I'm hoping. We sat there as the hospital hummed around us, his hand holding mine, and for the first time since Saturday night, I felt like maybe, just maybe, this could work. If I was brave enough to try. Dad came home from the hospital 3 days after the surgery, weak but alive. Ethan gave me a week off without me even asking. Family comes first, he'd said simply. Take the time you need. But what surprised me was that he showed up at my apartment that first evening with Ty, food and no expectation of being invited in. I wasn't sure what you liked, he said, holding up the bag. So I got a little of everything. I stared at him standing in my doorway, still in his work clothes, but with his tie removed, looking uncertain in a way that CEOs shouldn't look. You didn't have to do this. I know, can I come in anyway? I stepped aside. We ate pad thai and red curry at my small kitchen table, and somehow the conversation flowed easier than it ever had before. Maybe because we weren't at work. Maybe because my defenses had been stripped away by exhaustion and fear. Tell me something I don't know about you, Ethan said, twirling noodles around his fork. Like what? Anything. Favorite book. Worst fear. Secret talent. I can't sing to save my life, but I love karaoke. The worse I am, the more fun it is, he laughed. I would pay significant money to see that. Your turn. I built Sterling Corporation from the ground up after my father cut me off for refusing to join the family business. I set down my fork. He cut you off. Completely. No trust fund, no connections, no safety net. He said if I wasn't going to be across properly, I could figure out how to survive on my own. Ethan's voice was matter-of-fact, but I heard the old hurt underneath. So I did. Started with consulting work, saved everything, took calculated risks. 5 years later, I had Sterling. That's why beating me mattered so much back then, I said softly, understanding clicking into place. I represented the validation you desperately sought. You were everything I wanted to be. Confident, brilliant, secure in yourself. Every time I beat you, it felt like proof that I was worth something. I wish you'd told me then. We could have pushed each other forward instead of tearing each other down. We were kids, he said gently. Stupid kids who didn't know how to communicate. But we're not anymore. He came back the next evening, and the one after that. Each time with food, with conversation, with a presence that made my apartment feel less empty. On the 4th night, we talked until midnight about our dreams. His plan to expand Sterling internationally, my hope to eventually run my own agency. You'd be incredible at that, he said. You have the vision for it. Maybe someday, definitely someday. On the 5th night, we barely talked about work at all. Instead, he told me about his secret love of terrible action movies, and I admitted that I still slept with a stuffed elephant named Mr. Trunks that I'd had since childhood. That's adorable, he said, grinning. Shut up. No, genuinely. It's one of the most endearing things I've ever heard. On the 6th night, as he prepared to leave, he paused at my door. Maya, when you come back to work, I need you to know something. Okay. He took a breath. My feelings for you aren't appropriate for a boss to have for an employee, so I'm giving you a choice. If you want, I'll transfer you to Marcus's team exclusively. You'll never report to me directly. Your career will be protected, and no one can question your advancement. My heart started racing. And if I don't want that? He stepped closer, his eyes intense. Then we navigate this together, carefully and honestly. We're transparent with HR. We establish boundaries. We protect your reputation and career above everything else. But I need you to be sure, Maya, because once we cross this line, there's no going back. I thought about the girl I'd been at 17, nursing hurt pride and wounded feelings, convinced that Ethan Cross was the villain in her story. I thought about the woman I was now, strong enough to forgive and brave enough to take risks. Smart enough to know that some chances only come once. I'm sure, I whispered. Maya. I'm sure, I repeated, stronger this time. I'm terrified and it's complicated and there are 1,000 ways this could go wrong. But I'm sure. He cupped my face in his hands, his touch gentle, reverent, like I was something precious he was afraid of breaking. Tell me if you want me to stop, he said. Don't stop. He kissed me softly, carefully, and I felt everything that had been broken between us begin to heal. The past didn't disappear, it never would, but in that moment it didn't matter as much as the present. As much as this. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Ethan pressed his forehead against mine. I'm going to do this right, he said. I'm going to be worth the risk you're taking. You already are, I said. And I meant it. Returning to work on Monday felt like walking a tightrope. Ethan and I had agreed to keep our relationship quiet until we figured out how to handle it professionally, but apparently we weren't as subtle as we thought. Sarah cornered me in the break room before 9 a.m. So, she said, pouring 2 coffees and handing me one. You and Ethan, my face flushed. How did you... Maya, I've known since the hospital. The way he looked at you? That wasn't a concerned boss. That was something much more complicated. She smiled gently. I'm happy for you, really, but be smart about this. Corporate relationships require careful navigation, especially when there's a power dynamic. We're being careful. I know you are. Just remember that optics matter as much as reality sometimes. She squeezed my shoulder. And if you need advice, I'm here. Off the record. Thank you. Thomas Wright was a different problem. He'd already resented my rapid advancement, and now he watched me with barely concealed suspicion during meetings. I could feel his eyes calculating, looking for ammunition. He's waiting for you to slip up, Jessica warned during lunch. Don't give him the chance. I've confided in you about Ethan and me, I said quietly. Are you okay with that? I know it puts you in an awkward position. Jessica set down her sandwich. Honestly? I'm supportive but worried. Not about you two, I think you're good for each other, but Olivia's not going to let this go easily. What do you mean? She's used to getting what she wants. And what she wants is Ethan back. As if summoned by her name, Olivia appeared at the office that afternoon. I watched from my desk as she stepped off the elevator in a designer dress that probably cost more than my monthly rent, all confidence and perfect hair. I'm here to see Ethan, she told the receptionist, not bothering to check if he was available. My stomach twisted. She walked past my desk without a glance and entered Ethan's office like she still belonged there. For an hour, I tried to focus on the Parker Industries campaign, but my eyes kept drifting to his closed office door. The old insecurities crept back. Was I enough for someone like him? A CEO who moved in circles of wealth and sophistication I barely understood. Would our past always cast shadows over our present? Finally, the door opened. Olivia stormed out, her face red with anger, her perfect composure shattered. She stabbed the elevator button repeatedly, then disappeared behind the closing doors. Ethan emerged moments later, looking exhausted but relieved. He caught my eye across the office and gave me a small nod that said later, that evening he came to my apartment. I told her clearly and firmly that we're done, he said, collapsing onto my couch. That I'm with someone else now and she needs to move on with her life. Did you tell her it was me? No. He looked at me seriously. That's your decision to make when you're ready. I won't out our relationship before you're comfortable. The respect in that gesture made my chest tight. Thank you. We need to establish some ground rules, Ethan said. For work, I agree. We spent the next hour creating boundaries. No meetings alone in his office with the door closed. No preferential treatment on projects. In fact, Marcus would assign my work to avoid any appearance of favoritism. Complete transparency with Marcus and Sarah about our relationship. We'd keep it quiet from the broader company for now, but we wouldn't lie if directly asked. This isn't going to be easy, I said. Nothing worth having ever is. He pulled me close. But we'll figure it out together. Together, I echoed. The next morning, Ethan and I met with Marcus in his office. I appreciate you telling me, Marcus said after we explained the situation. And I appreciate the protocols you're putting in place. Maya, you'll report exclusively to me from now on. Ethan won't have input on your projects or performance reviews. Thank you, Marcus. Don't thank me yet. This means I'm going to be harder on you than anyone else to ensure there's no appearance of favoritism. Can you handle that? Yes. He smiled. Good, now get back to work. Both of you. As we left his office, Ethan caught my hand briefly, squeezed it, then let go before anyone could see. It wasn't perfect. But we were trying. And maybe that was enough. Everything fell apart on a Tuesday. I was reviewing the quarterly marketing report when Jessica appeared at my desk, her face pale. Maya, there's something you need to know. Thomas has been digging into your background. My stomach dropped. What do you mean digging? He found out about you and Ethan going to high school together. He's telling people that Ethan only hired you because of some obsession with his former rival. And now that you're dating. She trailed off, looking miserable. Now people think I slept my way into this position. I'm sorry. I tried to shut it down, but it's not your fault. I stood, forcing my voice to stay calm. Thanks for telling me. The whispers started immediately. I felt them as I walked to the break room. Conversations stopped when I approached. Eyes followed me with speculation and judgment. Rachel from legal, who'd been friendly at lunch that first week, looked away when I smiled at her. David from operations suddenly had urgent business elsewhere when I entered the elevator. Even Sarah looked troubled when she found me. I heard the rumors, she said quietly. For what it's worth, I know they're not true. But Maya, this is going to get ugly before it gets better. By afternoon, Marcus called me into his office. His expression was serious. Close the door and sit down. I did, my heart pounding. Maya, I need you to be completely honest with me. Did Ethan hire you because of your personal history? The question stung even though I understood why he had to ask. He hired me because I'm qualified. Because my resume showed 3 years of strong performance and innovative strategies. The relationship came later, and we've been careful to maintain professional boundaries. Marcus studied me for a long moment. I believe you. Your work speaks for itself. But perceptions matter in corporate environments. You need to be prepared for backlash. Some people will always assume the worst. I know. Can you handle it? I lifted my chin. I've handled worse, but I wasn't prepared for the board meeting. I'd been included in the presentation for the Silverman Industries proposal, a potential $50 million account. It was a huge opportunity, and Marcus had specifically requested my involvement because of my success with Horizon Tech. The boardroom was intimidating. 10 directors sat around a massive table, all older, all powerful, all looking at me with varying degrees of skepticism. I was 15 minutes into presenting our strategy when Richard Caldwell, one of the senior directors, interrupted. I'm sorry, Miss Chen, but I have to question your presence on this proposal. I paused. I'm sorry? You've been with Sterling Corporation for what, 3 months? And you're already leading presentations to the board? He leaned back in his chair. It seems to me that your involvement might be due to personal influence rather than professional merit. The room went silent. I saw Ethan's jaw tighten, saw him lean forward to respond, but something in me snapped. Before he could speak, I stood up. Let me be very clear, Mr. Caldwell, I said, my voice steady despite my hands shaking beneath the table. Every project I've led has exceeded targets. The Horizon Tech account alone generated $43 million in revenue and prevented client loss. My strategies have increased client retention by 18% across all accounts. The Redwood Financial rebrand came in under budget and ahead of schedule. I gathered my presentation materials, maintaining eye contact with Caldwell. If you want to question my relationship with Ethan, fine. That's your prerogative. But don't you dare question my work. My results speak for themselves. And if this board doesn't have the professionalism to separate personal relationships from professional competence, then maybe I'm in the wrong room. The silence was deafening. I walked to the door, my head high, my spine straight. Just before I left, I looked back at the stunned faces around the table. The proposal is solid. Sterling Corporation would benefit from the Silverman account. But I won't be part of any pitch where my qualifications are questioned based on gossip rather than evaluated based on performance. Good afternoon, gentlemen. I closed the door behind me and made it to the elevator before my composure cracked. My hand shook as I pressed the button. The doors opened and I stepped inside alone. As they closed, I saw Ethan exit the boardroom looking for me, but I was already descending. I'd stood up for myself. I'd defended my work. I'd done everything right? So why did it feel like I'd just lost everything? I spent the rest of Tuesday drafting my resignation letter. By evening, it was done professional, gracious, giving 2 weeks' notice. My hand shook as I printed it. At 7 p.m., I walked to Ethan's office. Through the glass walls, I could see him at his desk, head in his hands. He looked exhausted. I knocked. He looked up, and relief flooded his face. Maya, I've been trying to reach you all afternoon. I know. I turned off my phone. I walked in, closing the door behind me. I need to talk to you. About the board meeting, Maya, I'm so sorry. Caldwell was completely out of line, and I'm resigning. I placed the letter on his desk. The color drained from his face. What? I can't do this anymore, Ethan. The tears I've been holding back finally spilled over. Every accomplishment is tainted. Every success is questioned. People think I'm sleeping my way to the top, and maybe they're right to think that. They're not right. Maya, how can you say that? My voice cracked. You've given me opportunities no one else would have gotten. High-profile accounts, board presentations, everything. Because you earned them. Did I? I asked bitterly. Or did you give me opportunities because of our history? Be honest, Ethan, would you have assigned me Horizon Tech on my first day if I'd been anyone else? The silence stretched between us. He looked away, and that pause broke my heart into pieces. I believed in your abilities, he said finally, carefully. I knew what you were capable of because I'd seen it for years, but yes, our past influenced my decision. You'd proven yourself brilliant at 17. I just gave you the chance to show it again. That's not how merit works, I whispered. That's nepotism. That's favoritism. That's everything I've spent my career trying to avoid. Maya, I need to leave. Find a place where I can prove myself without question. Where my work stands on its own. I turned toward the door. He caught my hand, his grip desperate. Stay by my side. I can't. Not as my employee if that's what you need, he said urgently. Transfer departments, work for a competitor, start your own agency, I don't care. But don't leave my life again. I just got you back. I looked at our joined hands, feeling the weight of everything we built and everything threatening to tear it apart. I don't know if I'm strong enough for this, I admitted. For the rumors, the judgment, the constant questioning. You're the strongest person I know. His voice was fierce. You've stood up to me since we were 17. You called me out on my bullshit in high school, and you did it again today in that boardroom. Don't stop now. Don't let them make you smaller. The words hit something deep inside me. He was right. I'd let fear make me run when I should fight. Okay, I said slowly. But things change. I'm transferring to Marcus's team, officially no more reporting to you even indirectly. And we go public with our relationship. No more hiding, no more secrets. If people are going to talk anyway, they'll talk about the truth. Whatever you need, he agreed immediately. And I want my work independently audited. Every project, every metric, every result. I want a third-party consultant to verify that my performance merits my position. Done. I'm serious. Ethan, I need to know that I earned this. You did earn it. But if you need external validation to believe that, then we'll get it. He squeezed my hand. Anything else? Yeah, we do this right. Full transparency with HR, clear boundaries, no preferential treatment, ever. Agreed. The next morning, my stomach churned as Ethan and I stood before the assembled company in the main conference room. Everyone was there, Sarah, Jessica, Marcus, Thomas, even Rachel and David. The speculation was written across every face. Thank you all for coming, Ethan began. Maya and I have an announcement. Effective immediately, Maya is transferring to report exclusively to Marcus Stevens. Additionally, Maya and I are in a personal relationship, which we're disclosing to ensure complete transparency. Murmurs rippled through the room. I stepped forward, my voice clear despite my racing heart. I know there are questions about my qualifications and how I've advanced at Sterling Corporation. So I'm inviting anyone who doubts my work to review my project files, metrics, and client feedback. Judge me by results, not rumors. My record speaks for itself. The silence was heavy. Then Sarah stood up and started clapping. Jessica joined immediately. Marcus stood, applauding. One by one, colleagues rose, not everyone, but enough. Thomas remained seated, his expression sour, but even he couldn't argue with the support filling the room. As the meeting dispersed, Ethan caught my hand briefly. Thank you for staying, he whispered. Thank you for being worth it, I replied. We walked out together, not hiding, not apologizing. Our rivalry had transformed into partnership. Our competition into collaboration. The boy who challenged me had become the man who believed in me. And this time, we'd both win.